Okay, so let's get started. We're going to start off by moisturizing the face with Moisture Lush Cream Moisturizer. It's a new moisturizer from MAC. It offers instant hydration for the face. My face is usually very, very dry. So this is perfect for me. My skin just eats it up. I'm using my 190 brush to put it on. However, you can use your fingers. I've just become accustomed to using a brush because I use brushes for everything at the counter. So now when I'm home, I grab a brush pretty much for everything, including my moisturizer. Right along, I'm going to do my eye cream, which I can't find. I don't know where I put it. There it is. Okay. My Moisture Lush Eye. I usually use Fast Response because I always have bags under my eye and puffiness, and the Fast Response is wonderful for that because it has yeast and yeast extract and caffeine in it, which helps get rid of some of that puffiness. But I'm out of my Fast Response, so we're using Moisture Lush, which is wonderful. And now we're going to move on to a little bit of concealer. I like to put concealer under my eye, not so much to hide dark circles, but to kind of highlight under the eye. So I'm using MAC Studio Finish Concealer. I'm using the 194 concealer brush, which you don't have to use. Again, you can use your fingers. This just so happened to be the brush that was right here, and I decided to just use it. I usually don't even use this brush. A lot of times I'll use the 242 or the 252 eyeshadow brushes for my concealer if I'm using the Studio Finish. And if I'm using like Select Cover Up or Moisture Cover, a lot of times I'll use the 217 brush. So I just wanted to put a little bit underneath to kind of highlight, and I'm going to use my fingers to kind of blend it out a little bit. I'll use a little bit of my 190 also to buff it out a little. Okay, so I'm going to be using Studio Tech, and in Studio Tech I use 2, sometimes 3 different colors, just because I have different colors in my face. The center of my face is a lot lighter, the outside perimeter is a little bit darker, as is with many women of color. So I'm using NC45 Studio Tech. I'm using my 190 brush, and this is just for the inner perimeter of my face. And a lot of times when I do this portion of my face to kind of highlight the inside of my face, I kind of go in like a triangle like motion, and I just buff it in. And a little bit will go a long way. So now for the outer perimeter of my face, I'm going to be using NC50, and I'm going to be using the 109 brush, which is a great brush to buff in this foundation. So you get a little bit on your brush, and all you're going to do is just buff, buff, buff away. I love this foundation. It's just such a pretty, natural finish. Covers really well. Does not look cakey at all. So I'm going to buff, 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 and then I'm going to use my third color, which is NW45. NC50 has a very yellow kind of undertone to it because I have a little bit more yellow in my skin. A lot of the NWs are a little bit too reddish for me, but around my hairline and like the perimeter, I like to use a little bit of NW45 just to make sure it's blending and not looking too yellow, you know, right on the outside ends. So we're just using a little bit right along the outside, as so. Okay, things are coming together. So now I'm going to do a little bit of contour, and I'm going to use actually Studio Stick in a deeper color. I'm going to use NW55 right along the hollows of my cheek. I'm just going to draw 2 lines, and then I'm going to buff it right out. On top of that, I'm going to use a little bit of a blush entitled Blunt. And most of the time that's what I usually use, but I want my contour to show just a little bit better, which is why I use the cream. So you're just buffing. I just go in circles, 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 circles. Again, I'm still using my 109 brush because it's right here. Sometimes I use my 192 brush, but that's what was here. And actually, also if you're contouring, sometimes you might want to do a little bit, oops, on the sides of your nose, which I do for work sometimes. I like to look kind of chiseled. Okay, so next I'm going to use Blunt, which is this brown color. Great contour. Beautiful, beautiful contour. I also use it for eyeshadow too. I don't use most of my stuff for just one thing. You'll see me using a blush for a shadow and probably on my lip, and vice versa, eyeshadow as a blush. So again, hollows of the cheek, I'm using the 134 brush. I love this brush. It has a nice big fluffy head. I love it for contouring. Some people use it for blush. I like it for contouring. Okay, my brush is shedding a little bit. Okay, highlight. I'm going to use a little bit of Gold Magic bronzing stick. We don't sell this anymore. If you have one, or if you think you might have one, I would suggest digging it out and putting it to some use. I love this thing. It came out a couple years ago, a couple summers ago. I think it came out with the Diana Ross collection. And I love it for a highlight. It just makes your face glow. A lot of times I'll use Trace Gold as my highlight, but I'm going to use both. I'm almost out of my little stick, so if you happen to have some, you can send it to me if you're not using it, because I love it. Alright, so now more highlight. Trace Gold. Great, great, great shadow. Great as an eye highlight. Great as a skin highlight. Just going to go on the high planes of the face. I go down the center, the bridge of my nose, a little bit on my chin. Gives a real subtle natural highlight. Now blush. Fab from Barbie. I love it. Also, not a blush we have anymore. You might want to look on eBay. Cosmetic company store maybe will have it. I just go on the apples of my cheek. I'm using my 129 brush, and I just blend up and up. You can never have too much blush. I'm a blush girl. I'm almost done. Okay. And I'm just going to do my brow because it's looking kind of wicked. Even though this is a skin tutorial, I figure I'll just fix my brow up a little bit too. I'm using my spiked eyebrow pencil. And I'm just following the natural shape of my brow. My brow stops a little early, so that's kind of why I have to do this. I'll just fill it in a little bit. And that's pretty much it. This is how I get started on my makeup. Usually I do my eyes first and then my skin. But since we're doing a tutorial, I figured I'd do my skin first and figure out what I'm going to do next for my eyes for my next tutorial. And I think I am finished. So there we have Studio Tech foundation in 3 colors. I have a little bit of contour with Blunt. I have Fab Blush and Gold Magic stick as a highlight, also with Trace Gold, NW45, 55, excuse me, as my contour with Blunt. I think I already said that. And that's it. That's my face. That's what I do every day. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on my next tutorial.